Meeting to order. Roll call the members. Me, Rebecca Hanson, Chris Buckley, Bridget Powers, Steve Whitman, and Bill Bolton. We'll start with a review of the minutes from the June 15th meeting. Everyone should have a copy of. Any comments on the minutes from June 15th?
How minor of a, how picky should we be?
Like a typo or something?
Well, I mean, I always feel like on the second page, manner should be M. I'm pretty sure what she meant was M-A-N-N-E-R, not
Okay,
like
yeah.
manner is a building. That's about 2/3 of the way down the page. And then on the next page, I'm not sure about this, but the bullet point that starts Jack McCormick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences down, less, should be the less
Intensity.
suited? What's that?
The master planner identifies
This land is low in
intensity.
Yeah, intensity land, which is less suited for development? Or is that supposed to be cited?
I think it is suited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the reason it is cited, then, okay, and that's the only thing I saw.
And further down on that page, the second to the bottom bullet point, second sentence, perform a negotiation in front of the planning board.
Any other comments or edits?
Last page of the minutes themselves. Where it was Brian S. Steve Rhodes, it's the fourth bullet point. Should be a question mark at the very end. Is a 30-unit apartment building a residential use?
Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Any public comments unrelated to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, election of officers. At this point, right now, I am vice chair. Chris is non-recording secretary. And we need to elect a officer slate of chair, vice chair, and non-recording secretary. There are 3 of us eligible for these positions. Myself, Chris, and Bridget. We didn't tell you about that part, did
You already
we?
mentioned that.
Sorry, Bridget.
Your chair.
Is that why I'm here?
Yeah.
Look at how well Chris did in that position. He thrived.
Would anyone like to propose a officer suite
A suite or a list?
or individuals?
Yeah, individual, I think, because otherwise they could just vote it down if it was. But I nominate Rebecca for chair of the planning board.
I'll second that.
Oh, sorry. Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All those in favor of me as chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Vice chair.
I nominate Chris Buckley as vice chair.
I'll second that.
I'm shocked.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. And our non-recording secretary.
I'd like to nominate Bridget for that.
I'll second, go ahead.
No, you can have it.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
You rise to power.
That was quick.
Okay.
And Bridget, I didn't even realize that was non-recording secretary, so.
Oh, good. Let me just note that down.
Non-recording. All right, so moving on to new business, boundary line adjustment between PID number 108-030 and PID -108-027. Is there, to get a Thank you.
I campaigned hard.
Yeah.
Who wants to, can we all see this?
Yeah, I think it's pretty.
Thanks, Kevin. Must be very familiar.
Yeah, please do.
I can do the color code. Before and after.
Presently, the Roman Catholic Church of St. Matthew's owns 3 lots between Highland Street, Langdon Street, and Cumming Street. The first one, which is 10830, presently encompasses this area right here, and down like that. They also have another one, which is 10827, which is this lot right here. And then 10828 is this lot right there, which is now where the parking lot that they share with the hospital is. All I want to do at this time is adjust this line so that this lot 10827 picks up this area and leaves this lot with the rectory. This lot would have frontage down here. It's only 40 feet. It's not enough for a road, but it's enough for if they ever wanted to get access or utilities or something like that. The plan is that this lot will be conveyed to the hospital. Originally, we were going to just do the adjustment with the hospital, but per Brian's suggestion, if we just did it with this one, then they could convey an already existing lot of record, although with the adjusted line. So basically, all they're doing is extinguishing this lot and making the new boundary like that.
Any questions from the board?
The application is complete.
Okay.
And basically, my report here mirrored exactly what Kevin just said.
Okay.
And with the addition of the yielded acreage and the subtracted, so.
Would anyone like to make a motion on the completeness of this application?
So moved.
I'd second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the application is complete. So now we open up to public hearing.
Second that.
I second it, yes.
It is 6:38. Is there anybody that would like to, I'm opening the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak either in favor or in any nature with this application? All right, it is 6:39 and I am closing the public hearing. Are there any other questions from the board?
So how is that wetland going to be dealt with? Or what's the deal on that wetland? Or of the wetland, the wet area that extends through the,
Yeah,
what's the story with that? Or what's the intent of that? Maybe the intent of the lot, or is it just going to be, how is that wetland going to affect the usefulness of that?
well, that, right now, that was just, that actually was delineated at one time. The church was thinking of building in here, so that was part of that process. It's just, that is where it crosses the lot now, so that nothing's going to change that. If in the future they did any development in here that impacted it, that would be a new application with a wetlands application and come before the board based on that at that time.
Okay.
I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. It was a lot of record before, and there's a shifting. But it seems really straightforward.
I've got one point of clarification now, and I think I had like at least a year ago or a couple of years ago, I had an issue with a decimal deal. And there are two, I'm sure it's like it probably got surveyed, which hadn't been done before, something like that. But there are, two lots, and there are the total is like 2.84 original acres. And then what's conveyed is 2.87 acres. So I was wondering where the .03 acres came from. And if you think that's kind of silly, which it is, but it's actually like a square of 36 feet. Where's that 36 feet square coming from?
No, okay.
If you just tell me it got surveyed,
The original lot was 1.93. And that was of the whole.
Okay,
lot,
so
right?
okay, so it's the 1.9 in this thing.
Okay,
So,
okay.
there you go.
Oh,
Thanks very much.
Throw that away. It says right on the tax maps that they're worthless as far as that's concerned, so.
Thanks, Brian, for providing that to us.
Well, it should give you an idea of it, and all the calculations that I gave were based off of Kevin's survey.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
Okay, thanks for scaring me on that.
I'm sure you're shaking in your boots on that one, yeah. All right.
Would anyone like to make a motion on approving this application?
Go for it.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you guys ever walked that walking path through there? It's like have you been down there, through there? It's like
wow.
right in town. It's like a little.
Oh, I get to do that now.
They're all there.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Actually, why don't we leave them unfurled and I get Rebecca to sign them tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business this evening?
Just a heads up, there's a case going before the ZBA which reflects back to the question about the commercial use of property. Remember the garage? Okay. Provided they go through there, it looks like they will come to site plan review next month. So just kind of a heads up.
I wanted, if we could circle back and talk about the master plan a little bit more.
Yes.
And just while we're all here, and if we want to talk about membership too, just about what's our strategy for making sure we get a few more members.
Not enough.
Your rise to power.
Yeah.
Rise to power has me concerned. So as far as the master plan goes, because I have not been part of the conversation, so I've talked with a couple of you offline, but I just wanted to get a sense of how we think it may proceed with the contract extension, like what we might have as a timeline, what we might get as a deliverable, and then I know I'm willing to commit some time to working on it. And so if there are a couple of us that want to do that, I just want to get a sense for like what kind of time, and then we can coordinate within ourselves as far as if somebody wants to be a copy editor, and kind of go through and do that kind of stuff. If some of us want to go through and like check some of the facts and clarify some things first, but also I'd like to make sure that it's a usable document, so
Right.
that it's well formatted, and I don't know if we're going to get that level of delivery from North Country Council. at this
No, I
point.
think a great amount of that will be done by us.
Okay.
I think that it's going to be knocked somewhat into shape before it gets returned to us with all the comments that she had taken from the board.
Good.
then there was a certain amount of time for squishing it all together into a product before the public hearings, which were looking to be held probably towards the end of the year. That was what we were shooting for, as I recall. So, I mean, it's a bit fluid at this point. You know, and it certainly doesn't help matters that I came late to the party on this.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
But I will try and get some firm stuff out of North Country Council as soon as I can, just to when we might get it back, what kind of shape it's going to be in. I know Tara will probably do an excellent job before it gets back to us.
Right.
I don't know how much actual writing we're going to have to do. That's the question, and I think that's at the base of your question too.
Yeah, I think writing and layout and, you know, I mean, if we could, because it's gone on for so long, if I could be somewhat selfish, as one of the people willing to put time in on this, if we could use some time this winter and come out early 2018 with a draft that we could circulate, that we could get public comment on. I mean, if we could get through a public hearing even by town meeting and have endorsed it, then we'd have at least the upcoming year to be thinking about what.
Well, remember, it's also a busy time for the planning board.
Yeah.
If there are any amendments that are proposed, or if there's any you guys want to take up. You know, because those hearings will happen early 2018 as well.
Right.
Were you and I'm happy to work on
I was hoping you'd say that.
that. Yeah, you know, and I have a little bit of, I'll have to talk to my boss, but I you know.
I think we
have
could
plenty
make
of
it
time.
really great.
Yeah.
I think we'll have a lot of really good stuff, but I question the usability in the form that we're going to get it. But I think we could collectively, all of us, kind of decide how we want to make it look and really work well for the town and make it engaging.
I also have a little more time now to throw at this as well. So maybe by our next meeting, can we get an idea from North Country Council, the timeline that they're working on,
Great.
and what we're going to get from them, and what if their contract's being extended. Brian, do you know how long the contract is?
Basically, it was up towards the end of the year.
Okay. All right.
I mean, my guess is this has gone on long enough. I don't know if we've expended all the funds, but I think they probably want to be done with us as soon as they can be.
Yeah,
So who's this being addressed to at North Country Council then?
that is something I also have to find out, who the real contact person is. Right now, I'm using Greg, because he's familiar with it. And I don't know if there's actually somebody, I mean, Tara's a consultant now, too. So I don't know if her moving on was predicated on finishing this, or if she was willing to tackle it as a consultant for North Country Council, like as a sidebar thing.
Right.
I honestly don't know. I mean, I kind of got the impression, just from talking to her, that she wanted to see it through. But I don't know if contractually she has to or is allowed to.
So wasn't the contract with Tara? Or didn't she won the bid?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like North Country Council or?
Was.
It was
It
North Country
was?
Council,
Yeah.
yeah.
So which would be to the executive director and Greg, if he's knowledgeable about the project, but I think it would have to go to her. Yeah, because I don't know how things were left when Tara stepped down from her position.
I'll
I
ask
think
her.
what we heard from her was, it was the meeting, in the middle of the planning board meeting in August, and I think, she said she was done in 2 weeks, and
Okay.
that she was gonna wrap it up as best she could.
Okay.
But it sounded to me like she would not be involved beyond that point, so. And from my understanding, we've spent the funds and then some on this project, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Need to wrap it up.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm willing to help too. I don't know if you.
That'd be great. No, I mean, I want to put myself on the spot, but I was hoping that, if we all do a little bit on it, I think we can make it really good.
And one of the things that might be helpful is like, I'm hoping that this document, the master plan, will be useful for like the Conservation Commission. So it might be nice to bring the draft to the Conservation Commission and get some input. How can we make this more useful so we'll actually use it? Because we've never referred to the old one. And the information in there should be guiding just about everything that the Conservation Commission does. Because it's useful. So that might be some good feedback from various boards.
I think even what we do as a board is,
Yeah.
we don't refer to it enough either. So I think it's something we need to be meeting on
That
a
whole
regular
spiritual
basis.
thing I brought up at the
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we need to, as a board, bring it back to, think about what we should be working on yearly on the master plan.
And a nice way to be able to track that, and I have some examples of the way towns, so you can track what's been accomplished
Yep.
and what's pending. But I think also some criticisms of the previous master plan where people didn't like some of the statements in it, and so if we can get it out to boards and community members and collect some feedback, so we can make it work so that people are more likely to come back around the table and work on implementing it, that would be good.
Yes.
Great, that was helpful, thank you.
Okay, so by the work session, we'll maybe know a little more information
Yes.
about what we're gonna get.
I'll get a hold of everybody in there tomorrow.
And I will not be here that meeting. So, we'll leave it up to Chris to make sure that information comes in. Anyway, the other thing you wanted to talk about was
Membership.
recruiting.
Yeah. So I don't know what our best step forward is. Have we put anything formally out there that we're looking for planning board members?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Board of Selectmen announced it. I'm having Penny Baker TV run a card.
Oh, great, okay,
Both
good.
that and the zoning board.
Okay,
So in fact, I did encourage people to show up at the next meeting just to get an idea of what the planning board does, so that it might be more intriguing. So I'm sure all these people are willing to be new members.
There's a sign-up sheet.
And one of them is paying attention.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can only take 3 of you.
that card, Brian, the card is up on the local television station.
Yes.
I wonder if that's something we could send around by social media for those of us that don't watch public television.
Absolutely.
I don't know if they would have it or if we could take it off their Facebook page.
I can just, they can send you, it's just a PDF or
Or JPEG or
Yeah.
something. If you had access to it and you wouldn't mind sharing it with us,
Sure.
I'd be happy to send it around.
send it out to all of you.
I wasn't as successful as Chris at finding somebody who could make it to these meetings. Everyone I found had Thursday night commitments or asked about my attendance record.
You can't take no for an answer. That's what you gotta do.
Well, I think getting them in the building.
Yeah, that's-
We've learned,
We did a hard sell.
that's pre-turnaround point.
It's the fastest appointed membership on record.
I thought it was just me.
Well, it is.
I have personally approached a few people, so,
Oh, good, okay.
well, one person who was a prior planning board member can't right now,
Okay.
which that was his excuse a year ago too, I think, but no. Andy who?
And Brian, I think I asked this last time, you can be on the
McDonald.
zoning board
Yeah.
and the planning
Yes, you
board.
He's ready to come back.
Yeah.
And the
He's
zoning
older
board
now, right?
needs people too right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
I'll ask him.
And I think you approached the same person too, that happened to have a business on Main Street,
Oh, yep.
and she avoided me very rapidly. I tried that.
That makes me think of somebody else. Okay.
Greg won't even speak to me now, but.
Great.
Any other ideas for recruitment?
Actually, no, you mentioned Andy, but he had, his newborn is no longer newborn.
Right, exactly.
I'll ask him tonight. Tell him his name came up. We really miss him.
I
Okay.
do.
I think if we keep getting, I'm glad to hear that it's getting out other ways, and if we can get it out through some social media too, and.
Yeah, that's one component that we're lacking here at Town Hall. So-
Right. Yeah, if we can help with that.
Okay. And we'll, I guess, continue to talk about that until we have a full slate of folks here. And the last thing that I wanted to bring up, unless anybody else has anything, is just thinking about, I mean, it's September, we have, 2 months before we've got to have a hearing on any potential zoning ordinance changes, so just kind of throwing that out there. I can't remember if there's something that, we did some changes last year, which seems like 10 minutes ago, but that was months ago. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that was sort of, phase 2 of some of the updates that we were making.
Because last year was mostly definitions. and
Yes, a
AD
lot of things had changed around the definitions, which why it was necessary to get those in.
Right.
And then the ADU
ADU.
thing, but,
Yeah. It's kind of a funky timing with the master plan coming up, as
Yes.
we will be getting a lot of, imagine we'll be doing a lot more changing
So
as a
my-
result of the master plan. So I don't know if there's anything that we had thought of that we wanted to take care of this year.
I mean, there's a few things that had backburnered that Sharon and I had talked about in the past. One would be the relationship of setbacks to existing properties. Oh boy, my mind is gone. So you have these things, a lot of the older buildings were built within the 30-foot setback. And you might have an L, or a offset. Some towns have adopted that, that your setback is set by the pre-existing building. So, in certain cases, if you continued the plane, then that would be the working setback for that particular property. And I saw a pretty good diagram that Ben had put out on the web.
Okay.
And, there were like 3 scenarios of how it would work. Obviously, you build out of the setback in the back, it's permitted use, though here it's rather difficult. I mean, you don't want to grant it for the whole thing, but, sometimes when an interior corner is produced and the street being out here, there's no harm in filling in that, with a den or whatever, extension of a bedroom. Just a thought, because a lot of times those, very minor encroachments, require them to go to the ZBA, and it's almost, to my mind, a bit of a taking to actually allow the town, because you get what you get, and that's where you make your stand, right? And why make it any more difficult? Like a special exception would make more sense in this interior corner scenario than a strict variance. Because, you're bound by that, and once you fill in that corner, you're done with that then. So, if there isn't a question of sightlines for traffic or pedestrian safety or anything like that, it would seem to me that just to set the bar a little bit lower for folks that need to do it, because, housing's expensive. And, we're pretty much set by patterns of development from the 50s and 60s here,
Right.
or even before then. I mean, I know of several properties that are actually in the roadway. But it's just the way they drew the lines up long after the houses were built, So, the other thing that always bothered everybody was zone lines splitting properties. In certain cases, you absolutely have to, just because of the way things are done. But in many cases, the protections are there within the zoning ordinance for proximity to the different zone, where it would extend, the less restrictive zone could only extend 30 feet into the other, on that particular property, and vice versa. And a lot of times, you can't get to the agricultural zone without passing through the single-family zone. So, those people that would otherwise enjoy, and we're talking larger properties here too, not just, in-town stuff. It's restricting the development on those parcels because they have to adhere to the single-family zone. And so, even if they wanted to run cattle up there, according to the zoning ordinance, and, if you pass through that zone at all, it covers your entire thing. And that seems to be a little bit too much, so, but those are the ones that can't be changed just because of the nature of the beast. They're drawn around the back of the neighborhoods of where they wanted to establish the single-family zones. But there's others in town where it's almost like they did it with a blindfold on. It doesn't really make a lot of sense one way or the other, and when they could just have, other than the descriptive call in the back of the zoning ordinance would just require more verbiage there, because you're going along this property and, you know, and then over, rather than northeasterly. So, just a couple of things. I don't know if you're at all interested in taking those kinds of things up, but that's what we had discussed. It's something that looming in the distance.
Yep. Okay.
And they both sound like good housekeeping things to continue to work on, regardless of the master plan.
Yep.
I wonder on this, the first one makes total sense to me, and I think we could probably dig up the stuff from Ben Frost to help pitch why we're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, he had a 3-block diagram that showed all the scenarios.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think to encourage people to continue to invest in the in-town density that we have, those kinds of reliefs are helpful.
Right.
The second one, I wonder if it's possible for us to like get a zoning map and identify those properties that are the big, like, to see to what degree it's really necessary, and almost like color code it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a work session that we have, and see, you know, if it's going to be worth, you know, your time and, you know, everything leading up to a public hearing.
Yeah, I could get one of the old tax maps, you know, and even though when it's not usable, you know, the zones haven't changed.
Exactly.
So,
Right.
you know, we could use that for just seeing how bad it is in certain cases.
Yeah, because it might be something that's really worthwhile to do.
Yeah, and there have been cases up through the ZBA
Okay.
where they've pled this split zone restriction, and because of that, you know, it was seen as a taking, and they were able to do it. Somebody that straddled the single-family and the two-family zone, of course, he had basically a house that was perfectly suited for a two-family, but he couldn't because part of it was in the other zone. You know, and it would have been absolutely clear if it had been down the center line of the road or at the back edge of the property. So, you know, just take a little bit of that out. You know, it's not that the ZBA is looking to do less judicifying, but, you know, you would like it to be cohesive, you know, at least at its base.
And that's a service we can provide if we can send less people for those little things.
Right, right. And usually
cost for them.
when you see a spike in the zoning cases on a certain issue, you know it's time to change. I mean, that's what brought the whole fence amendments in back in like 2009, because it used to be viewed as a structure and you had to adhere to the setbacks. So if you wanted to fence your backyard, you essentially gave up 15 feet all the way around the edges to put the fence up.
Right.
And, you know, it was foolishness.
Yeah.
Okay, so to move forward on this, we'll, I mean, maybe think about this during the next work session where I won't be there. But the information, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if we need to see that as a board, but help you guys know what I'm talking about? The whatever the information about why the relationship setbacks in existing properties,
Okay.
and then looking at the zoning, where the zoning lines are in relationship to different properties and where we're seeing issues. So either at this next work session or maybe the one November, which is starting to get kind of late, but yeah. So, but maybe we can talk about that in. Yeah, so then the October, first week of October. Any other new business?
Not even before
Yeah.
they're
We
appointed.
haven't even adjourned yet.
Good
someone-
job, Madam Chair.
Would someone like to make a motion to
Well,
adjourn?
any comments from the?
Oh, thank you. Are there any public comments? Okay. Now, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'm so good at that.
Do you want to,
Oh, I'll second it.
Excellent.
Okay.
a new tradition is formed.
Congratulations, everyone.
All right. Unless there's any opposed, we will adjourn the meeting. 7:05.